Hello, Dr. James Marcum with the Biblical Prescription for Life. Thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for sharing this with your friends and neighbors. Thank you for commenting and using your comments to help others. We have a very important topic today. That's biblical treatments. That's 5 biblical treatments for depression. Many people suffer from depression, whether it's short-term depression or long-term depression. It's everywhere in our world, and I want to give us 5 biblical treatments for depression today. But I want to start you out with a text. And I think as you think about this text and pray about what we're talking about today and internalize it, it'll make sense why I chose this text. And that's Matthew 26, verses 37. And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. This is Christ that's being sorrowful and deeply distressed, and he took his friends with him. So I think this chapter, Matthew 26, is a great place to think about how Christ himself dealt with depression or sorrow or being distressed. Remember, Christ, we find in Hebrews that Christ can empathize with me, with my human weakness, with my human emotions, with my human challenges, with my human diseases. And if he can do it for me, he can do it for you as well. So here we go with 5 biblical treatments, prescriptions that will help those with depression. This is very valuable to share with each other. You might need to apply them to your lives. So let's go over 5 of them. Number 1, walk with God. Listen to his voice. That means studying the Bible regularly. Prayer, where you can express yourself, your deepest needs, your deepest desires, even though they might not sound so good, we have to do this. And we look later in that chapter, Christ says, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. And then he asks his friends to stay here and watch with me. Then he says to his Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. So express your deepest thoughts and desires. God understands. But realize as we walk with God, it's about God's will being done. We see that in verse 42 in this chapter. God is sovereign, and he may allow depression and other diseases for a reason. That might be to glorify him in the way you handle it. It might be to save you and make your relationship better because you realize you need a savior. We don't know, but we can trust God. So that's number 1, walk with God. Number 2, cling to the promises. Cling to the promises in the Word. Seek them out. Find them. Say them out loud. Write them down. Internalize them. This will help you understand about future grace. God's going to take care of us in his time with his will. Future great. Remember, our future is bright, and internalizing these promises, which are true. God doesn't lie. He's going to bring these promises to fruition in his time. We are going to have ultimate healing from depression when we get to our home in heaven. So cling to the promises. That's biblical prescription to 2. Cling to them, internalize them. Number 3, he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee. So number 3, find friends, true friends, that will stay with you, that you trust, that you can pour your heart out with. And these friends will listen to you, support you, give you constructive criticisms and constructive advice, and just be there. Sometimes it might be just the ministry of presence. In verse 38 in this chapter, Christ says, stay here with me and watch with me. So sometimes the friends don't have to do anything dramatic, but sometimes his friends might include professional help, which requires professional counseling at times and ways to deal with depression. It might even, in some cases, include a medication. So that's number 3, find friends that will stay with you, that you can talk to and be with and pour your heart with. Number 1, walk with God. 2, cling to promises. 3, find friends that will stay with you. Number 4, here is a picture of the molecule tryptophan. Why do I bring this molecule to your attention? Tryptophan is used in the brain to make the chemical serotonin. Serotonin is very important. Now, you can't just, serotonin does not cross the blood-brain barrier. It has to be created in the brain. The psychiatric medicines that are out there, like Prozac, Zoloft, Lexapro, all of them are a class of medicine called serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So basically, they increase the amount of serotonin available to the brain. The psychiatric medicines like Effexor and Cymbalta, not only do they increase serotonin, but they increase norepinephrine. So serotonin is very important to get this level up in the brain. We can do this in many ways from a nutrition factor. 1, we can take vitamin D, which is needed for serotonin. Number 2, we can avoid chemicals that hurt us, that might cause us to have problems like alcohol and different types of drugs that aren't healthy for us. We want to make sure we have good water in our body. We want to make sure our gut is good. That means it's healthy. It's filled with good chemicals. That's good. This microbiome is healthy. And we do that by getting back to some recommendations by God. In Genesis, he says he created seeds and plants for us to eat. In Daniel, he talks about pulse and water. We want to head towards a plant-based diet to make our microbiome in our bowel and our microbiome as healthy as it can be. Now, some of us might need special boost in tryptophan, which can be converted to serotonin. We might look at special foods that have lots of it. We know that oatmeal has lots of tryptophan, pumpkin seeds, tofu. Grains can actually help serotonin get into the brain where it needs to go. We also know that the alpha-3 omega acids are important in helping tryptophan out and turning into serotonin and the whole process. Things like flax, walnuts are very important brain foods, chia seeds, things of that nature. So basically, we want to eat a plant-based diet that will be healthy, where we have water. We want to make sure we have vitamin D, and some people might need extra boost in tryptophan, which is turning into serotonin, which is what we need to help our brains out. Vitamin D, very important as well. So that's number 4, good, healthy nutrition. And 5, the last one today, is physical movement and activity. Getting outside, looking at nature, getting out where sunlight can help with vitamin D production and ultimately serotonin production in the brain. I've met several people through the years that just get away from it all, take a walkabout in nature, and somehow that improves their depression a lot and even takes it away, gives them a new perspective. So there's our 5 biblical prescriptions. Remember, Christ can empathize with our human weaknesses. And we see, and I invite you to read Matthew 26 from 36 to the end of the chapter there, because it talks about how Christ, during this time of his sorrow and this time when he felt poorly, what he did. 5 biblical prescriptions: walk with God, cling to the promises, find friends that will support you, and that might include professional help, good nutrition, get outside, move, help yourself do better. So these are just 5 biblical prescriptions. If you have more to add to that list, please write them in the comments. Some of us deal with this every day. I think it's important that we talk about it, share it with each other, help each other, pray for each other. So give this a like, share this with your friends and neighbors. Next week, I'm going to talk about an important autopsy study. So if it doesn't stay up long on YouTube, go to our Rumble channel and also look for it as well. I'm hoping it will stay up so everyone can look at it. Sometimes I've talked about autopsy studies and people decide that that's not something that they want on their platform. So look forward to that next week. I'm Dr. James Marcum, and I'm going to be back very soon with yet another biblical prescription for life.